By the time I got my hands on the case, he already had bodies on both sides of the age line. Children under 10 and women over 70. That's what threw everyone off. No profiler, no detective, no textbook on forensic psychology would put those two victim types together. You don't hunt toddlers and grandmothers, not unless you're not hunting people at all, just vulnerability. And that's exactly what Victor Keller was dying. He was still working for EMS, still in uniform, still carrying a stethoscope and smiling at strangers. But by then, his mission had changed. He wasn't saving lives anymore. He was scouting them. Every shift became reconnaissance. He'd walk into apartments with peeling wallpaper, spot a calendar on the fridge, and casually ask, "When's your son home again? You live here alone? Anyone else got a spare key?" He was charming, gentle, respectful. Women smiled at him, some even flirted. They never saw what he wrote down after each visit. He kept it in a little brown notebook tucked into his glove compartment. He called it the field journal. Inside were pages of names, old women mostly. Next to each name, their medication schedules, their routines, what time their daughters went to work, when the mailman usually arrived, which doors creaked, where they kept their keys. He wasn't just tracking them. He was studying them. He didn't rush. Victor would sometimes wait weeks between scouting and attack. When the timing was right, he'd show up at the door again, sometimes with a stethoscope, sometimes just his white coat. He'd say he was checking in, reassuring, professional, courteous. Then he'd slip something into their tea, a double dose of tranquilizers or sleeping pills. Once they were barely conscious, he'd rape them. Sometimes he left them alive. More often, he didn't. When they died, their deaths were chalked up to natural causes: cardiac arrest, stroke, senile deterioration. No one asked questions. One victim had a wooden spoon and a kitchen knife inserted into her body. The coroner ruled it as self-inflicted erotic asphyxiation. That's how far the denial went. I've reviewed hundreds of witness statements. Many elderly victims remembered a kind doctor. Some even liked him. He made them feel seen. He remembered their names. He didn't rush. Sometimes he'd stop by without a call, just to check in. They thought he was an angel. He was making sure they were home alone. He learned everything. When their children came to visit, when neighbors walked their dogs, what time nurses left after giving insulin shots. And when the moment was right, he returned. He always entered through the front door, because they always let him in. During this time, Victor was also killing children in basements, parks, garages, alleys. But the pattern was different. With kids, it was impulsive, messy, opportunistic. A sudden wave of desire, no planning, no hesitation. With the elderly, it was cold, methodical, rehearsed. Two completely different MOs. Two completely different victim pools. Same man. It wasn't just rare, it was unprecedented. People ask me why. Why target grandmothers and kids? My answer is always the same: because they couldn't fight back. Victor Keller wasn't driven by lust. He was driven by dominance, by control, by the thrill of being able to walk into someone's home, commit unspeakable violence, and walk back out unnoticed. He didn't want sex. He wanted to own the moment, the body, the silence that followed. And when even that stopped being enough, he began killing first. Some victims were already dead when he began assaulting them. Others died during the act. A few were killed after, because he realized they'd seen too much. At least one he returned to, but days later, just to check something. There's no record of what that was. 6 elderly women died in a 2-year span, all in the same district, all under Victor's medical care. Not a single homicide investigation was opened. In one case, the body was brushed from head to toe. The ME called it a bad fall. In another, the woman's throat was crushed. The official cause of death? A spontaneous airway collapse due to advanced age. I can't make this up. I don't have to. It's all in the reports. Signed, stamped, and filed away. Victor wasn't just ignored. He was protected by a system that refused to imagine someone like him could exist. The more he got away with, the more he pushed. His notes became longer, his attacks more violent, his interest shifted from the act to the aftermath, to the moment of death itself. He began to fixate on the last breath, the tremor in a hand, the way pupils dilated just before going dark. He once told a forensic psychiatrist, later during the trial, "That moment, when they leave their body, that's when I feel most alive." By 1985, 5 children were dead. 6 elderly women were buried. No one had connected the dots. They were looking for 2 killers, 2 types of crimes, 2 different monsters. What they didn't realize was that the real monster had just bought a new white coat, and he wasn't finished yet.